Imagine this. You're in a meeting and you are feeling frustrated, unsupported, and feeling like you're not getting the recognition you deserve. And so your boss then asks you after the meeting, is everything okay? And you say, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Then you see a colleague and you end up venting. You end up venting to them, telling them how you're feeling. Have you ever done that? Said, I'm fine when you're really not fine? I know we all have. It's like an automatic response. And today we are diving into the fallacy of I'm fine and how inauthentic communication is not only hurting your career, but also hurting your personal life. And most of all, it is hurting you and stopping you from getting the success you truly deserve from the inside out. Welcome back to Success Unscripted, where we've released the fluff and really get you on the path to discovering what success looks like for you. I'm excited to dive into this topic today of truly being authentic and being transparent in your communication and losing the I'm fine fallacy. Because we've all been there. We have all done it, and it is hurting every single one of our relationships. When we default to terms like I'm fine, that default mechanism or defense mechanism, we are hurting not only ourselves because we're not being true to ourselves and we're not honoring ourselves, but obviously we're hurting the relationships. And I want you to think about the last time that somebody told you they were fine and you knew they weren't, because you can feel it. You can feel it at home. You can feel it at work. And many times we're just like, I wish they would just tell me what's going on. Yet we do the same thing to others. So we're going to go ahead and break this down. And I'm going to give you some tips and tools that you could use to try and help you be more authentic, but in a way that lands, in a way that feels good to you and potentially could feel good to the other. Either way, I think that when we are authentic and raw and kind and loving all at the same time, we actually feel better. We feel better, and I believe that our relationships can actually survive and thrive when we are like this. The number one thing we have to make a decision on is, what is it that I want out of this relationship? So if we're at work and it's your boss, obviously that relationship matters. That relationship matters because many times I know I felt like that my career is in this person's hands. And on some level it is, right? Now, it is important for you to create a brand outside of your boss, but that's a whole other episode that we will be getting into. But either way, it is important for you to try and work on cultivating that relationship and being honest, again, in a way that is transparent, also loving. And I know we don't really use the word loving in a corporate setting or when we think about work, but I still like to use that word because I want my thoughts to be loving toward people, right? Because I believe what we have on the inside, it comes out, right? I think there's a stat out there that says only 7% of our communication are the words that we use and our tone. I think it might be I probably would challenge that, but still, a lot of it is our body language. A lot of it is our body language. And our body language, in my opinion, is dictated by the thoughts we have in here, the thoughts we have in our head. So if I'm thinking, oh God, I can't stand this guy, it's going to come out some way, somehow. So I like to think, I try to pick something that I really like about this person, whether it's something that they're wearing or that I think that they're smart or that was a really good idea. So that can translate out. If I'm frustrated, that comes out. So let's go. Okay, so let's think about the workplace. When we think about the workplace, what does our ineffective communication do to us? I want you to think about the last time you worked with someone and you're just like, oh, it's just challenging working with that person because I don't really know what they're doing. Maybe thinking about that passive aggressive person. I always used to say I love an aggressive person because I know exactly where they're coming from. Passive aggressive person is hard to tell. It's like trying to read their mind all of the time. Those people don't feel fun, right? But the aggressive person, you're also walking on eggshells with them because you don't want them to get upset or you don't want to rub them the wrong way. And so you're playing this like mental gymnastics, trying to figure out what should I say? When should I say it? How should I say it? Both of these individuals are exhausting to work with. And I'm wondering, could you carry some of those traits? I had to really explore that for myself. Now listen, I'm not saying that everyone's going to like you because they probably aren't. And that's okay too. But I tried to just focus on me. How am I showing up? Because I do not want the way I'm showing up, if I'm showing up inauthentically, if I am hiding what I'm truly thinking, if I am afraid to say what's on my mind, that will hinder the relationship. And that I don't want. That I am in control of. And so how do I make sure that my thoughts and my feelings, my opinions come across in a way that is loving? The first thing I try to think is, how can I phrase this thought as a question? Questions are so powerful because it releases us from making assumptions and it invites the other person to the conversation and it lends clarity. It's a great space for clarity when you ask questions. I don't think that we value questions enough because that really opens up the conversation. So when you think of a statement, ask yourself, how can I phrase this as a question? That's a great place to start. When you think about our personal relationships, being transparent and authentic can really be helpful. I want you to think about the relationships that you have. Your favorite relationships are typically people that you can communicate with easily. People that you think they get me. And so what does that look like? What is it about this person that you feel she or he gets you? The trust is typically high. The communication is typically easier. You just like being around that person. And I was having this conversation with someone the other day. We were talking about professional, but this can definitely apply to personal. And I was telling her, why does she feel like being around her? And she was just talking and I was like, you like being around her because she makes you feel good about you. That's always my goal. Everywhere I go, every person I interact with, I want you to feel good about you. I am here to remind you of your greatness. And I want that for all of us. Think about it. Who do you like being around the most? I'm not talking about that toxic relationship that you might have. I'm talking about that person that you just love being around. When you're having a crappy day, you call that person because you know that person's going to make you feel better about you. I believe that we all have the judge. I'm sure I've said this before. We all have that judge in our mind. And that's not my job. My job is not to point out. Now, my job is to give you constructive feedback, right? And how we do that is a skill. But my job is not to berate you. My job is not to remind you, oh, you have a pimple on your face. Yeah, you saw that this morning, right? I don't have to tell you that. And so really understanding how you give feedback and how you can be authentically yourself so that you don't have to say I'm fine when you're not fine. You don't have to pretend that you're okay when you're not okay. Gives you license to truly be your authentic self and be able to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is a huge layer here. Really understanding, are you upset or are you hurt? And if you're upset, what exactly are you upset about? So when you think about really understanding how to express yourself in a truly authentic way, I think that's exactly where it starts. It starts with self-awareness. What is truly going on inside? What are you upset about, mad about? What are you feeling? Typically, we tend to focus on like the thing, the action. You didn't support me and that's why I'm upset. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Whatever that may be. I think we can easily get stuck. And when that happens, we'll sit there and argue about what happened back in the 90s. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. So I want you to ask yourself the question of, in a perfect world, if I had it my way, what would that look like? What would that look like? Get clarity on you and what you want, right? It does take a level of self-awareness to truly understand and be able to express yourself in a way that is vulnerable, in a way that really opens up the conversation to get to the root of the issue, not just talk about what somebody did back in 2001. Not helpful. And really, the second piece of this is having the courage to have these challenging conversations, because I am telling you, a lot of the problems that we have can be resolved by us truly being honest. And for us saying, you know what, I am upset. You know what, that did hurt my feelings. You know what, I don't like when you say that to me. We have to teach people how to treat us. And it could be as small as, hey, when you text me good morning, don't put GM. I don't like the way that sounds. Like, text the whole thing out. Or it could be so simple and easy like that. If that's one of your kind of pet peeves, instead of saying, you know what my pet peeve is? My pet peeve is when you text me GM instead of saying good morning. Whatever that is, right? It could be as small as that, or it could be as big as an argument that started years ago that you can now in the cycle of that argument. You're in the energy of that argument. And every time you meet this person, every time you see this person at work in the hallway, every time you see this person at a family event, you're back in that energy. It's something for us to truly explore as to what's going on with us. I try to look at it like everybody in my world is here to teach me something about me. Every person I encounter is here to teach me something about me. It's not about them. It's about me learning about me. I think the last piece of this is really understanding what you want your boundaries to be. What do you want your boundaries to be? What do your boundaries look like? What is going to feel good for you? And you be able to say, I'm in the space where I'm putting a boundary around that. I've decided that I want to put a little more boundaries there, right? Whatever that is, it's really understanding your self-awareness, having the courage to have these conversations, and then setting the boundaries. Oh, and by the way, communicating those boundaries, because guess what? If someone continues to step on your boundary, that's because you didn't communicate them well. I'm going to say that again. If someone continues to step on your boundaries, that is because you didn't communicate them well. Listen, I think at the end of the day, we all desire deeper connections. And that starts with us, not with the other person. I think there's a stat out there that says like 70% of employees would be happier if they had a deeper connection. And I bet that stat resonates on the personal side. And so those deeper connections actually start with us. We are responsible for us having a deeper connection with the people around us. And it does start with transparency. It does start with authenticity. And it starts with you willing to be vulnerable. And I will tell you that when you have the courage to be vulnerable and say how you truly feel, you are honoring yourself. It's not about other people. It's about you honoring you, being able to say exactly how you feel, to be able to say, I love you. You hurt me. This is what I want. Exploring what you want. And so I hope this episode is going to release you from saying things like, I'm fine, when you're not. You can easily say something like, I'm not okay right now, but I'm still unpacking where I'm at. I'm not okay right now, and I'll let you know if I need you. I didn't have the best week. You don't have to give details, by the way. Transparency does not mean you let everybody know all your business. I don't believe it means that at all. Actually, on the contrary, I think transparency means, hey, I need space right now. I need a moment. I'm in an era where I'm really taking some alone time. That's transparent. You don't have to give the details, right? So really understanding what that looks like for you and what feels good for you, but being transparent in your communication 100% will have you having deeper connections. And I know that this stuff is not easy, but it will help you become more successful in your relationships at home and at work. Because when you can come in and be authentically yourself and be transparent and be bold and courageous in your communication, that's what people gravitate to. At least that's who I gravitate to. And I know when I wasn't like that, when I wasn't showing up as my true authentic self, it felt exhausting. It felt really tiring. And I'm going to leave you with this story. I was leading a team and there was someone who I felt I had a very good relationship with. One of my team members, he's leaving. And so I asked him, hey, what can I do better? You have nothing to lose. Just tell me straight. Tell me exactly what I could do better as a boss. And he said, I just wish I would have seen more of this person that I've been talking to for the last 30 minutes. And I'm like, what? Like, we literally had moments where he was opening his heart to me and in tears and all, just telling me a story. And I felt we were really close and I felt like I was super authentic, but there was obviously still layers that I had to break down. And how I did that was through when I was in situation, I'm like asking myself, am I holding back or am I being honest? Do I have a wall up? Like, where am I? I would literally question myself in the moment to make sure that I was being more authentic to me. And I would also try to make sure that I wasn't so different from like my home person, my home Jessica, and the work Jessica. And there was a time where they were completely different. There was like the work persona and the home persona. And they didn't always align. And I wanted to make sure that they were more in alignment. There was a time where, so I grew up in New York and I grew up in the 90s. That was like the heyday. And so I love music. I love music. I love all types of music. But back in the 90s, it was like hip hop, right? And in New York for sure. And I remember one of the senior managers, he'd be like, oh, I'm from Miami and I love Biggie and I love hip hop and I love this and I love that. And I would not say anything because I did not feel like it was okay for me to actually say those things. Because I was in a super corporate environment and I was typically like the only Latina around and I didn't want to come off hood and I didn't want to come off all of these ideas that I had in my own head that may or may not be true. Now, the people around me were doing it, right? I remember another senior leader getting on a conference call, and it was just like our team. And he was like, what up? And I'm like, I would never do that. I would never do that, not even as a joke. But the more comfortable I got with myself and had my own versions of that, I felt like more me and it resonated with those around me. And I specifically remember us getting out of a meeting and one of my counterparts telling me, Jess, who was that in there? Because I've never seen that girl before. And so I think, again, the more I could be myself, the more I showed up as me, the more I gravitated, or I was a magnet to the right people. And so I want that for you. Because as we hold back, it's not doing any good for you or for the people around you. Because I'm guaranteeing you are repelling people that you want to get closer to you. I am guaranteeing you that. And so I hope today reminds you to not say I'm fine if you're not fine, and to find the words, to really practice those words, and they will not come to you overnight, and you may get it wrong, and that is okay. But practice saying your true and honest feelings and having those conversations, those raw, real and honest conversations, especially with the people that mean a lot to you. Now, if this episode resonated with you, I need you to do me a favor. I want you to go ahead and hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, and share this with 1 or 2 people that may need to hear this message. Don't forget to step into your power, communicate with intention, and lead unapologetically.